Chosen one. Something moved in you when you first saw this. Maybe it was small, a shift somewhere in your chest, a breath that came a little differently, a moment of recognition so quick you almost let it pass, but it was there, and you know it was there. That movement has a name. It is the sound of a part of you that never stopped listening, finally responding to something it has been waiting to hear for a very long time. You have not been ignoring God because you stopped caring. You have been so immersed in the frequency of survival, the noise of obligation, the weight of a life that never quite slows down, the pull of 10,000 things, demanding your attention, that the signal could not reach you clearly. But the signal never stopped. Moses heard it in the silence of a wilderness he thought was his punishment. David heard it in the long, unmarked years before anyone believed in what he was becoming. And you right now, in whatever season this is, you are hearing it too. That is why you are here, not by accident, not by coincidence, by a pull that your spirit recognizes even when your mind cannot explain it. God is not asking for your perfection. God is not asking for your readiness. God is asking for 5 minutes, just the willingness to stop moving long enough for what was always true to become audible again. What you are about to hear will not just inspire you, it will reorient you. Stay close. Before we go any further, I want to tell you something important. If you stay until the end of this message, you will understand exactly why God's call has felt harder to hear as you have gotten older, and it is not what most people think. You will learn the specific pattern that has been muting the signal from inside your own soul, and you will receive a practical way to quiet it. And you will hear something about your identity that I believe will shift the way you see yourself for the rest of your life. What I am about to share takes time to build to its full weight, but if you stay, every minute will be worth it. Now, let us begin. You think you have not been hearing God clearly because you are not consistent enough, not spiritual enough, not disciplined enough. I want to challenge that. Because what I have found and what I believe with everything in me is that the people who feel the most spiritually distant are often not the ones who stopped caring. They are the ones who are carrying the most. They are tired. They are stretched. They have been faithful in the quiet, in the places no one sees, and they are running on less than they will admit. If that is you right now, I want you to hear me say this directly. The problem is not your faith. The problem is the noise. Think about the last time you were completely still, not just physically but internally. No planning the next thing, no replaying the last conversation, no low hum of worry running in the background. Just still, open, present to something larger than the moment you were in. Most people cannot remember when that last happened, and that is not a failure, that is a diagnosis. We were built to function at a frequency that requires a certain kind of quiet to maintain, a state of knowing, of clarity, of deep connection to a source of wisdom that cannot be faked and cannot be manufactured in the middle of a packed calendar. I want to use a picture that I think will stay with you. Imagine God like a signal, not a weak signal, a strong one, constant, reliable, broadcasting continuously, without interruption, from the moment you were formed. The signal never drops, the signal never weakens, the signal never decides it has tried enough times and gives up. But you are the receiver. And receivers can be interfered with. Receivers can be overwhelmed by competing frequencies. Receivers can lose sensitivity, not because they are broken, but because they have been operating in conditions they were never designed for. That is the picture I want you to carry as we go further today. God has been broadcasting. The question was never whether he was speaking. The question is, what has been interfering with your ability to receive? Moses did not hear the call in a cathedral. He was not in the middle of a dedicated prayer session, journaling on a mountain, with a clean conscience and a clear schedule. He was in the middle of ordinary, unremarkable work in a place he thought was his permanent exile. And then he stopped, because something caught his eye that did not make sense. A bush that was burning and not burning out. He turned aside. That is the phrase the text uses. He turned aside. He did not immediately have everything figured out. He did not feel ready. He simply stopped his forward motion long enough to pay attention to something that demanded attention. And in that stopping, the voice that had been waiting for exactly that moment spoke his name. Your signal is still broadcasting, but there is something I need to show you about why receiving it has gotten harder, and this is the part that most people never find out. Because what has been blocking the signal is not just the world around you. Part of it is happening inside you. And understanding the specific scientific reason why your brain's ability to receive has been diminishing since you were 7 years old, changes everything. Stay with me. There is a state that neuroscientists have been studying for decades, and it is one of the most extraordinary discoveries in modern brain science. They call it the gamma state. Gamma is the highest recorded frequency of brain activity. It is the state associated with peak insight, deep intuition, the kind of clarity that feels like it comes from somewhere outside your ordinary thinking. Researchers at MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford institutions that do not use words like miraculous lightly have documented again and again what happens when the brain enters this state. Connections form between parts of the brain that do not normally communicate. Information integrates in ways that feel sudden, but were building quietly beneath the surface. People describe it as the eureka moment, the answer that appears in the shower. The thought that wakes you up at 3 inches the morning already formed and fully clear. Ancient contemplatives, mystics, the saints of every tradition did not call it gamma. They called it different things in different languages. But they all described the same experience, a kind of knowing that transcended ordinary thinking, a receptivity to the divine that felt less like achievement and more like opening. Science is catching up to what the soul has always known. When you are in gamma, you are in the state your brain was designed for at its highest function. And here is the part that matters most for what we are talking about today. You were born in gamma. Watch a child learning before the age of 7. Watch the way they absorb everything, the way creativity is completely natural, the way they ask questions that cut straight to the core of things, the way they can sit with wonder for long stretches of time without effort. That is not just innocence, that is the neurological signature of a brain operating in its highest state. But something happens around age 7. Scientists call it the decline effect. The educational system, the social conditioning, the demands of performance and measurement, they begin to train the brain out of gamma and into a lower, more reactive state. A state optimized for compliance, for speed, for getting through the next thing. The brain learns to survive the demands placed on it, and in learning to survive, it gradually loses consistent access to the frequency it was born with. By adulthood, gamma becomes rare, accidental, the kind of thing that happens to you unexpectedly, rather than something you can access reliably. I want to be honest with you about something, because I think honesty builds more trust than overstatement. I am not saying that recovering your gamma frequency is the same thing as having a relationship with God. I am not saying science explains the sacred, or that a brainwave is equivalent to prayer. Those would be simplifications that disrespect both. What I am saying is this: when the instrument of your receiving has been gradually degraded by decades of noise and reactive living, the signal has a harder time getting through. It is not that God stopped speaking. It is that the antenna has been operating below its design capacity. And there is something that I believe is worth knowing about. In the last decade, a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, who spent over 30 years studying the relationship between brainwave states and human potential, working alongside research teams at Princeton, Harvard, and Columbia, developed something that I want to tell you about. He wanted to solve a specific problem. The gamma state, which was once the natural operating frequency of every human being, had become inaccessible to most adults without either years of meditation practice or expensive biofeedback equipment that costs upwards of $7,000 for home use. The people who needed it most, the people living in the highest noise environments, carrying the heaviest loads, were exactly the people who had no practical way to access it. So he spent years compressing the technology into something different. He used a process called brain entrainment, specific sound frequencies that, when listened to through headphones, gently guide the brain toward the gamma state, not forcefully, not artificially. The way a tuning fork causes a nearby string to resonate at the same pitch. The result was a 7-minute audio track. 7 minutes, every day, headphones in, eyes closed. That is the entire practice. Now, I want to say this carefully, because I think it matters. This is not a miracle in a file. It is not a guarantee that you will hear God's voice the moment you press play. It is a tool. The way glasses are a tool for someone whose vision needs support, or the way silence is a tool for someone whose thoughts need settling. It is something that quiets the static, so the signal has a cleaner path to reach you. Over 18,000 people have used it, not as a replacement for prayer, not as a shortcut around the real work of becoming. As a daily preparation, 7 minutes of intentional stillness before the world demands everything. The original price of this tool is $49, but Dr. Lake has made it available at $39, specifically for people who come across this message, a price you will not find on Amazon, on any other platform, or anywhere else. That price is only accessible through the link I have placed in the description and the pinned comment below. I also want to warn you about something, because this matters. There are counterfeit versions of this product circulating under the same name. They use the word gamma. They use similar packaging, but they do not contain the actual brain entrainment frequencies that make the technology work. They are just audio. They will not do what the real thing does. The only way to receive the genuine product with the full technology, the 4 bonus resources that come with it, and the complete money-back guarantee is through that single link. If you find it anywhere else, it is not the original. For those of you who feel drawn to that, for those of you who heard me describe the gamma state and felt something in you, lean forward. The link is there for you. No pressure, only for those who feel called to it. But now, I want to come back to what I started to say before, because we have established something important together. The signal never stopped, and you were built to receive it. But there is a third layer, the one I told you was coming. And this one is the layer that most people never want to look at, because it lives inside them. It is a pattern, quiet, intelligent, and very protective. And it has been standing between you and the fullness of what God is calling you into for a very long time. Chosen one, I told you there was a pattern, and I want to name it now, because giving something a name takes away its power to operate in the shadows. The pattern is this. Somewhere along the way, and for most people, it happened in a season that genuinely hurt. You learned that staying slightly at a distance from the things that mattered most was the safest way to keep functioning. Not full withdrawal, not giving up, just a slight holding back, a partial opening instead of a complete one. You have felt it in prayer. The moment when something in you begins to genuinely reach toward God, and then something else, quiet, efficient, fast, redirects you. Suddenly you are thinking about what you need to do later. Suddenly the words feel hollow. Suddenly you are going through motions rather than genuinely meeting. This is not distraction. This is protection. Your inner self at some point learned that full surrender was dangerous. Maybe prayer felt unanswered for too long, and something in you decided it was better to manage expectations than to be devastated again. Maybe someone you trusted used the language of calling and purpose to manipulate you, and now your spirit flinches when those words come close. Maybe life simply demanded so much for so long that staying guarded felt like the only way to keep going. I want to say something to that part of you that has been working so hard to keep you safe. You did the right thing with what you had at the time. That response made sense. It protected something real. But it has also been standing at the door of the very thing you came here for. And today, I am asking you to consider letting it step aside. Think of the prodigal son, not in the way the story is usually told, not as a warning about what happens when you walk away. Look at the moment the story actually turns. The text says he came to himself, not came to his senses in some self-disciplined, gripped himself together way. He came to himself. He stopped performing the survival pattern. He stopped pretending the noise and the motion were working. And in that single moment of internal stillness, in that one moment of radical honesty, the call he had been moving away from became audible again. The Father was already running toward him before he finished forming the words. That is the posture I want to invite you into today. Not a surrender that means giving up, a surrender that means finally stopping long enough for what has always been true to become visible. Now, here is something practical I want to give you, because I do not believe in leaving people with only inspiration. When you sense a pull toward something larger, toward prayer, toward stillness, toward a version of yourself that feels almost too good to believe, and you feel that quiet resistance rise up inside you, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. You do not need a pen, you do not need to move. Just hold these in your mind, wherever you are right now. The first question is this: is this resistance coming from wisdom, from something genuinely worth protecting, or is it coming from a fear of being disappointed one more time? The second question: if I trusted, even partially, that this pull was real, what would I do differently in the next 24 hours? And the third: what is the smallest possible yes I could say right now? Not a commitment to everything, just the next step, just the next breath, in the direction of openness. Those 3 questions are a form of discernment. And discernment is not about having certainty before you move. It is about honest movement toward what your spirit already recognizes as true. Now, I want to take you somewhere deeper, because everything I have shared until this point, the GPS picture, the gamma state, the protective pattern, has been building toward something. A truth that, when you receive it fully, does not just change how you pray or how you listen. It changes how you understand who you are in this story. Stay with me. This is the part that matters most. You have been approaching God's call as if it were a message sent to you from a distance, a divine communication that you need to receive correctly, respond to adequately, live up to over time. And that framing, while it contains truth, is missing something enormous. Here is what I want to say to you, and I want to say it slowly. You are not trying to get God to call you. You are the call. Let me explain what I mean. In the ancient Hebrew of the scriptures, the word translated as calling is quara. It does not simply mean to send a message or issue an invitation. It means to call out, to name, to speak someone into their full identity. When God calls, He is not merely summoning you to a task. He is declaring you into the fullness of who you were designed to be. The call came first, before you were born, before you made any choice, formed any habit, succeeded at anything or failed at anything, before the noise, before the decline effect, before the protection pattern. The calling was already spoken, which means you are not someone waiting to be called. You are someone who was called past tense, settled, finished, and who is now learning to live from that calling rather than toward it. Moses was not looking for a mission when the bush caught fire. He was already the deliverer. He had been the deliverer since before he was placed in a basket in the Nile. The burning bush was not the beginning of his calling. It was the moment the calling he had always carried became impossible to ignore. David was anointed in a field while his brothers stood in line. The king of Israel was kneeling in the dirt, smelling like sheep, completely unaware that the thing being spoken over him had been true long before Samuel showed up with the oil. And you did not become a chosen one by watching this. You were a chosen one before you knew what that meant, before life made it complicated, before you started wondering whether someone like you could really be called for something like this. The only thing that has changed today is that you stopped long enough to hear what has always been spoken over you. I want to name who you are. Not in a general way, in the specific, precise way that your spirit already recognizes, even as I say it. You are a seer. You perceive patterns, meanings, and truths that other people walk right past. You have done this your entire life. You thought it was just the way your mind worked. It is not. It is equipment. It was given to you because the world needs people who can see what others cannot. You are a voice. There is something in you that needs to be said, not performed, not polished, not made impressive enough, just said, spoken from the place where you are most honest. The world is not waiting for a louder voice. It is waiting for a truer one, and that is yours. You are a light bearer. You have walked through enough dark to know how to carry light without pretending the dark does not exist. That combination, that hard-won, unpolished, genuinely real light, is more powerful than anything borrowed or fabricated. It is specifically yours. And you are a pioneer. You were not supposed to have a path already cleared before you. You are the one who goes first. You are the one whose willingness to step into the unknown makes it possible for the people behind you to follow. That loneliness you have sometimes felt at the front of things, that was never a mistake. That was your position. I want to tell you something about that word, Quara, one more time. When God calls your name, truly calls it, He is not summoning you to a checklist. He is speaking into existence the version of you that has always been true. Every season of your life, including the ones that felt like detours, including the ones that felt like failure, including the ones you would not choose again, they were all formation. They were all Quara. They were all God speaking your name into its full expression. That is why the call does not expire. It is not a deadline. It is a definition. And now I want to ask you to do something. You do not need to stand up. You do not need to find anything. In this moment, wherever you are in this room, in this car, in this bed, I want you to let something drop. Breathe in once, and as you breathe out, consciously release the version of yourself that has been deciding whether or not you are qualified for what you were called to. That version kept you humble when humility was protection. It served its purpose, but it is not you. And it is no longer serving the person you are becoming. Just let it go on the exhale. You do not need to earn this. You do not need to be ready. You only need to be willing to receive what has always been true. It is settled. You were called. You are here. And what comes next is not the beginning of something new. It is the continuation of something ancient. Now, I want to pray with you. Take a breath and come close. Because what we are about to do together is not a ritual. It is a recognition. God, we come in gratitude. Not for an easy road, but for a faithful one. Not for seasons without pain, but for a presence that never left. Even in the ones we walked through, mostly alone. We are grateful for the wilderness that formed us. We are grateful for the waiting that strengthened us. We are grateful for every night we questioned, and every morning we got up anyway. You were in all of it, every single part, and we want to say we see that now. You see every weight that has been carried in places no one else could reach. You see the questions that were held in the dark, the prayers that felt like they were going nowhere, the moments of faithfulness that no one acknowledged. You see the cup of water given quietly, the kindness offered when there was nothing left to give, the small acts of trusting that no one filmed or celebrated. You have seen all of it, and none of it was wasted. Now, we release. We release the noise that replaced stillness. Release. We release the belief that the call expired. Release. We release the comparison to timelines that were never ours. Release. We release the shame of the seasons we spent running. Release. We release the protection pattern that served us once and has served us long enough. Release. We release the old ceiling we placed over ourselves because we thought it was humility. Release. We release every voice that told us the call was for someone more qualified, more consistent, more worthy than us. Release. It is gone. Let it go. Now we activate. We activate the seer, fully awake, clear-eyed, no longer second-guessing what it sees. We activate the voice, ready to speak what has been forming in the silence. We activate the light-bearer, unafraid of the dark, because the dark is where this light was made. We activate the pioneer, willing to go first, without needing permission or a cleared path ahead. We activate right connections, the people who carry the same frequency, who sharpen rather than drain, who are being positioned even now to align with this calling. We activate divine timing, not our schedule, not our impatience, not our fear, but the perfect, unhurried, unstoppable timing of the one who sees the beginning and the end simultaneously. We open every door that disbelief has held closed, open, and we protect what is being built. Cover the rising from the pull of old patterns. Guard what is being formed in this new season from exposure before it is ready. What has been lifted today, let nothing pull it back to where it was. What has been spoken, let it take root. Now we declare, I am not searching for my calling. I am the calling. I am not waiting for permission to become what I was made to be. I carry the frequency of the one who formed me, and I will not go silent. I am a chosen one, not because I earned it, not because I was the loudest or the most polished or the most prepared, because it was spoken over me before the foundation of this world. And I receive it fully, right now. It is done. It is settled. We receive it with open hands and a surrendered heart. In Jesus' name, Amen. Take a breath. Let that land. You did not come here by accident. You came here because something in you is still responding, still reaching back, still alive to what it was made for. And that is not the end of something. That is the beginning. If this message reached something real in you today, I want to invite you to type the word signal in the comments right now. Not as a performance, as a declaration, a way of saying, I heard it. I am still receiving. And if someone in your life has been asking whether God is still calling them, whether the signal is still there for them, share this with them. That is how the call spreads, one willing receiver at a time. You are loved. You are seen. You are called. Go live like it.